Greetings and welcome to episode 45 of the Sustaining the Herd podcast, brought to you by Secchi Agri-Services and Engineering of Raymond, Nebraska. I'm your host, Andrew Wadle, and I'm joined in the studio as usual with my co-host, Brock Vitek.
Hey there, Andrew.
Hi, Brock. And really excited to talk about the topic that we have in store today, that being... We're going to talk about innovation. We're going to talk about innovation and considerations for evaluating technologies, products, and how we go about adopting innovations. Does that sound good, Brock?
It sounds like a blast, Andrew. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, after all, I'm the Director of Innovation and Sustainability at Secchi, and this is what we do, right? We bring technologies to our clients, and you're a big part of that and part of the innovation and sustainability team. And so, boy, if anybody can talk about this topic, it sure should be us, right?
I'd like to think so. This is what we do. This is what we get paid to do.
Absolutely. And so, welcome back to our past, our current listeners, and we really appreciate the feedback that we get from you on the episodes. And it sounds like we get nice feedback that people are getting something out of it. Whether it's producers or people in the industry, or even our people that we like to call the people in town, people who really don't have an ag background but sure do eat, and so they have an appreciation for agriculture. So for our new listeners, just to tell you a little bit more about Sustaining the Herd, what it is all about. And at Secchi, we look at sustainability really in three different ways, and one is maybe the one maybe call the more traditional view of sustainability in agriculture, and that is protecting the air and water. That is protecting pollutants and contaminants out of the air and water, because we all want to drink clean water and breathe clean air. And then, of course, we have the other part of sustainability is, and one people don't think about very often, is resource efficiency, doing more with less. And so if we can get more output from less inputs, that is sustainable because we're using fewer resources. And then lastly, I think another part people sometimes really forget about when in sustainability is strong businesses. We have to have strong agribusinesses in order to continue to feed and clothe and really the United States and the world. And so we talk a lot about people and how we make our businesses strong. And if we do a good job, we have an episode that kind of weaves through all three of those topics. And I think hopefully we'll do that again today.
Absolutely. Thanks for teeing it up, Andrew. Well, as you mentioned a moment or two ago, today we'll be talking about considerations for evaluating different technologies, products, and innovations that agricultural producers might be considering adopting in their operation. And, our listeners have heard us talk about a lot of examples of these types of innovations, whether that's something like anaerobic digestion, which may not be all that new, but it is, especially in some markets like beef cattle feedlots. We've talked about liquid-solid separation of manure, sand separation with manure, and there are many other products and technologies out there. Maybe there's a crop input, maybe a biological additive that producers could use to help them grow corn, for example.
How about vermiculture, Brock? We talked about vermiculture.
Yeah, we had Jim Wallace on with BioFiltro talking about using earthworms as part of a manure management strategy. That's pretty cool. So there's anything and everything out there. And, I really think there are a lot of great technologies and solutions that are available to producers, but producers need to know where to start as they look into whether or not these technologies are a viable option to adopt in their operation. The answer may be yes or no. It's not always a resounding yes or a resounding no. It takes some due diligence and some work to look into these things. So that's what I think we'd like to help producers do today, is just think about, how do I approach evaluating something? Yeah.
And so, when I think about innovation, and I've kind of been involved in innovation for, almost 3 decades now. And so, when people look to innovate or to do new technologies, it's usually for 2 reasons. The one reason is to do something that they've always done, but do it better, right? So to adopt a new technology to do something better and different. The second reason to innovate, and there's probably more, the second reason to innovate that I think of is you're looking to do something completely different. An example would be anaerobic digestion on a beef cattle feedlot. That's not doing something better. It's something adopting completely new. And so when I think about innovation, I first start about, well, why do people innovate? It's to do something better or to do something new and different. And then you say, well, why to do something new and different? Well, it might be resource efficiency. It might be to protect the air and the water, and or it might be something people related, to do something safer or smarter or different.
More profitable.
More profitable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think no matter what type of innovation or technology a producer might be evaluating, there are some questions that seem to be a common theme in that evaluation process. It doesn't matter if we're looking at a crop input or if we're looking at a completely different style of animal housing, such as roller compacted concrete versus an open dirt lot feedlot pen. And I think we have to start out with asking ourselves, what is this technology or innovation that we're evaluating? What is its purpose? What purpose could it serve in my operation? Just getting down to the brass tacks of what it is and how it's expected to perform, or the difference that it's expected to make for the operation. So after we ask ourselves what's the purpose of this innovation or technology, I think we then need to consider, how is it expected to perform? You might look at a crop input label and it says, X bushels yield boost expected, or you might hear from a veterinarian or a consultant that roller compacted concrete would be expected to produce, X pounds greater gain on your cattle, or whatever it may be. And, those results may have been experienced in some cases. However, you need to look at your operation as you look at your local climate and weather and conditions, the type of cattle you're raising, or the type of soil you're growing your corn in. There are so many variables that could impact the actual outcome of implementing or adopting these technologies versus what might be on the label or what people would typically claim. So it's important to dig in and think about it, look at it in the context of your own operation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, this is where I think it's helpful to make the distinction of whether it's new technology or new to you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't really delineate that.
And so
could be both, or could be one or the other.
It could be new to, absolutely, it could be. And I think that oftentimes when it comes, if I was to give recommendations to people as far as adopting new technology, I think it's a matter of setting the expectations low. When you're innovating, knowing that the end game could be good, but it might be difficult getting to that point.
Absolutely, there may not be a precedent for how well it will perform.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so what that means is that things will go wrong. And even if it is existing technology that you're applying new to your operation, things are different. Things will go wrong. And so it's a matter of having the patience and stamina to see things through.
Mm-hmm. And stepping beyond that and some other considerations, I think it's important to look at what I like to call total cost of adoption. For example, let's say you're going to spend X number of dollars to install roller compacted concrete in your feedlot. We at Setchi think that sounds like a great idea, right? Sounds good. However, you need to understand the pen maintenance implications as far as how often you might need to be in that pen to do cleaning, scraping manure. what you'll expect to spend on labor and bedding material in the winter months. There could be some indirect costs that you don't always see right off the bat that may not, be directly tied to the cost to purchase or install this innovation or technology, but they are costs that you will incur in other ways, some more direct than others. So it's important to look at total cost of adoption and think about how does this fit into my operation and what other monetary costs or labor or operational changes or needs might arise as a result of adopting it as well. I think this is something that can really surprise producers a lot of times, and the magnitude of that surprise might depend on what technology we're talking about.
Yeah, well, that's an example where it's a matter of it's the technology alone doesn't come at a cost, but we need to just like everything we do, we need to be thinking of it as a system. What is the cost of adopting the system, not just the technology piece?
Yeah, that's a good approach. I think that can ultimately help us understand what value this adds to our operation at the end of the day if we take that systems approach and think about where does this fit into the bigger picture. So as we think about that, Andrew, I'd like to dive into some special considerations for different categories of innovations or technologies. And I'll just list these off. We can go through them here. I think that, and this is especially in the context of our experience here at SETI that we're qualified to speak on. One category would be manure management equipment. Another would be animal housing. I know we've talked about RCC a bit already. Another might just be infrastructure on a livestock operation. And then lastly, what I would call value-added innovations, whether it's anaerobic digestion or some nutrient separation technology. How's that sound to maybe talk about some special considerations for these different categories?
Yeah.
Would you like to start us off with manure management? I consider you our foremost resident expert on that.
Well, I think it's tough, and I think again we're going to go back and say if we're going to innovate in that area, I'm going to mention something that I'll say weaves through all of the categories, and so this would be like a higher level, and that is I put under the category of who we choose to innovate with is really important.
Yeah.
And so whether it's manure technologies or animal housing, and right on that, each of these categories, it's a matter of who are you going to innovate with. And so whether that means new technology or new to the farm, feedlot, or dairy, right? Because at the end of the day, as I said earlier, things are going to go wrong. Things are not going to go to plan because things are different. And so when you innovate, I think one of the most important things, regardless of the category, is to do it with somebody who really is going to support you, Mm-hmm. And so that could be as simple as if you buy a new implement, somebody stays with you until you put it to work. It's not quite that easy with say RCC, roller compacted concrete, but the idea is when you do something new, it comes with a whole host of questions, and you want to innovate with people and a company that have your best interest in mind. And that means to see your innovation through until you are satisfied. And that can be pretty challenging at times, because a lot of times companies that are innovating, now I'm putting innovation in the category of new technology. They're startups. They're running pretty lean, and you adopting their technology might be funding them till they get the next order for the whatever. And so no matter what you do in innovating, you want to do it, and you want to have assurance that the company you're innovating with has your back.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I didn't address the manure piece, Brock.
No, go ahead. I like this.
But that really I think it really cuts through all those topics.
Yeah, but before we jump into the manure management equipment, one more thing I'd like to add to what you just said, Andrew, is, even once, say, the system or equipment technology is up and running or it's implemented, you're satisfied it's working well. Let's say you get 4 or 5 years down the road and you start having some problems with it. You want to make sure you're working with partners who will pick up the phone 5 years from now, and will be there to walk alongside you and help you figure it out. And some startups in the innovation space may not be around in 5 years. And I don't mean that negatively towards companies, but the market moves fast, changes happen, things happen, and companies come and go. But try your best to work with people who are around for the long haul, because unless the world stops turning, your family farming operation is probably going to be around for the next 50 years. At least I'd like to think every farmer thinks that way.
Yes.
However, some innovative startup that might have the best of intentions might not be around in 5 years.
Sure. Well, innovation comes with risk. And so if the innovation is not successful, we never like to talk about that, but sometimes innovations are not successful. Yeah, for sure. The product's not going to be there. The people aren't going to be there. It's just going to be you and an empty wallet or something.
Yeah, we don't like to talk about the boneyard scrap pile behind the machine shed, do we?
Yeah, but as we talk about all the time, Brock, sometimes knowing what not to do tells you what you actually need to do, and to take you on to the next innovation. And that's innovation by definition. By tongue-in-cheek definition is, if you're an innovator, you're the person who pays too much for something that doesn't work as you were told it would, and that is very often the reality.
It is. So with all of that, thanks for adding that in, Andrew. Let's jump back into the categories here. Just helping our listeners understand some what I call some special considerations depending on which type of technology or innovation they're looking at. Could you, just from your experience, dig into some things to think about when evaluating manure management equipment, whether new to you or new to the industry?
Well, I think that's really tough because you've different kinds of equipment. You could have a manure pump, which can arrive and disappear as fast as it arrived, or you could have something that's anaerobic digester, which is manure management equipment system. So I think of it more as a manure management system. And
sure.
I think, again, I'm going to talk in broad terms that it's a matter of when we go into a project, having a very well defined list of parameters. This solid separator is going to perform at this recovery and this flow rate, and then I'm going to hold the supplier to that recovery and that flow rate. And so I would say when it comes to manure handling equipment or systems, it's a matter of having agreed upon documentation, having agreed upon performance. And then of course you have to measure it, and then hopefully it exceeds expectations, and if not, then you have something to go back to a vendor on, separation systems are a great example of something that semi-innovation technology that that are being adopted in large numbers.
Very good advice. So another category I'd like to talk about is animal housing. So something we talk about a lot. I've talked about it a million times already in this episode. An example is feedlot pen surface, whether that's a traditional earthen pen surface or roller compacted concrete if we're talking outdoor open lots, or that could be a bed pack barn or a deep pit barn with a slatted floor, underfloor manure storage. Or as we think about dairy, it might be the type of bedding that you have in your freestall barn, whether that's sand or compost fiber bedding or mattresses or the type of ventilation in your barn. Is it tunnel vent? Is it cross vent? The list goes on. These things may not be new to the industry, but might be new to you as the producer. What advice would you have here, Andrew, especially with your experience with sand bedding, for example, in dairy?
Yeah, when it comes to animal housing and things that you just described, I like to look at something like that and say, how do I take something that's innovative to me and make it not so innovative and not so scary?
I like
and so
that.
What I mean by that is, if sand bedding, great example. If sand bed, I'm going to adopt sand bedding. That is an innovative practice to me. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go see as many sand-bedded dairies as I possibly can. I want to see the really good ones, and I want to see the really bad ones. Again, knowing what not to do teaches us what to do. And so when it comes to these, so you take sand bedding and you take RCC or confinement barns. That's not something you can say, "Hey, Mr. Salesman, I don't like it. Take it away," right? And so you own this, and so
Yep.
that's my suggestion would be to take something innovative to you, and go find the best in class and the worst in class, and learn from them, and take the innovative and make it rather passé and not so innovative.
Yeah, and go and see it for yourself, touch it, feel it, and form your own opinion about it.
Yeah, and not only that, but something as real close to you as in terms of climate management.
Yes.
And so I'll give you an example. You mentioned mattresses, again, stall surface. And some people might see, the mattress salesman will take, or let's just say manure solid bedding. We talked about sand. Take manure solids bedding. And so, you could go see a bunch of manure solid bedded dairies, and they're doing fantastic. They're killing it. They're doing as good as sand. They're doing, but then you also have to ask the question, how do they get there?
Yeah.
Well, they manage, they are exquisite managers of their bedding. If you are going to be an exquisite manager of your freestall surface and your bedding, you'll do fine. But if you're not going to bed every day, you're going to have big problems. And so it's a matter of seeing facilities in the same circumstances, the same climates, the same duty cycles. Brock, you've heard me say that one of the things you never want to say is it works in Europe, right? And sorry for our European friends. And it's own fantastic technologies most of the time, but it's just a different scale. Yeah. You take a solid separator and it might operate for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And a solid separator, say a screw press here in the United States, works for 25 hours a day, And so, it's a matter of looking at the innovative things, the things that are innovative to you, and just get familiar with them, take away the surprises, and design into your, design and use the technology in a manner that's best for you and suitable to you. And
I really like that, Andrew. And the next category I was going to get into is infrastructure. And I really think the same comments apply there. So I might lump that together with animal housing. As you look at, different, say grain and feed storage methods or technologies, site runoff containment and drainage, just go and see it for yourself and think about it within your local context. And something I'd add to what you've said for animal housing and infrastructure is go and see it, not just on a sunny 70-degree day when it's fun to be out on the tour. Go and see it right after a 3-inch rain downpour and it's cold out, and how are those cattle doing? How are they looking? And go see it in the best and worst of conditions as well. Yeah. Get a really good idea as to what you might be getting into.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, you go ahead, Brock. I just another point on executing an innovative technology.
Okay.
But
Gotcha. Well, our final category before we move on to something else, I'd like to talk about value-added technologies. And our listeners hear us talk about these two quite a bit. The ones I'd like to talk about are anaerobic digestion and nutrient separation, which we typically see in partnership with anaerobic digestion. And as we know, and as we've talked about on the show before, anaerobic digestion itself is a tried and true proven technology. It's been around for quite a while. You mentioned that you've been in your career for about 30 years now, and anaerobic digestion's probably been part of your work for most of those 30 years, if not all of them, right? Or it's been in the industry.
Yep.
And due to
innovation, it's come and gone a number of times.
Yes, it's right now are we on anaerobic digestion 2 or 3.0? I don't know what phase we should say.
Around 3.
3.0. I like that.
The third coming.
The third wave, yeah. Hey, third time might be a charm.
That's right.
I don't know. Well, yet to be determined. But anyway, yeah, that's a great example. Things, they come and go. They'll be around, might go away due to some issues, and they might come back eventually. And anaerobic digestion on beef cattle feedlots is a great example of tried and true technology, but a completely new application that certainly comes with its own implications and challenges. So as we look at these technologies, I think it's very important to not assume that it'll work the same on a feedlot, for example, as it would on a dairy. Different quantity of manure produced per animal, different manure composition, whether we're talking quality of manure in terms of percent organic matter, volatile solids, and the nutrient ratio in the manure of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and others, and also just the consistency, the total solids or dry matter content. On a feedlot, we know that manure will most of the time require a lot more dilution than dairy manure will, due to how the manure is traditionally managed and handled. So those are the comments I would have on anaerobic digestion. Would love to ask if you have any, because nutrient separation might be not only new to an operation, but also somewhat new to the industry. So I'd like to put a button in anaerobic digestion, and then maybe we can dig into the nutrient stuff a bit more. Anything to add?
Not really, Brock. I think you covered it really well.
And we've talked about it in the past. Our listeners have heard it.
Yeah.
But now nutrient separation, this is one that I am calling out a specific technology here, but I think it's important enough for us to do that because we are seeing it come up a lot in our day-to-day work with anaerobic digestion projects. And this is one that, would you say it's come and gone a bit over the years? I'm not sure it's ever come in force, but is this maybe the greatest coming of nutrient separation right now?
I would think it's come and gone. It's come and gone, and it's here. And this is an example of a technology, of a proven technology, but not a proven technology in agriculture. And so this is a nutrient separation is a classic case of don't fall victim. If you're looking at these technologies, don't fall victim to, well, they do it in industrial wastewater. They do it at the wastewater treatment plant in the city.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but, the solids content of feedlot manure is what, Brock? Pick a number, right? Give me a number. Tell folks a number.
I'm going to give you a range, anywhere from 25 to 75% total solids.
Right. And so compare that to municipal wastewater, you might be at 0.25%, you're 3 orders of magnitude different in terms of solids content. And so whereas a lot of these technologies, these nutrient separation technologies, they might have a heartbeat in industrial or in municipal or industrial wastewater. Manure is a lot different, a whole lot different. And so as we look at nutrient separation technologies, what I would guide people to do is work with people who have done something actually with animal manure, knowing that your other I hate to call them waste streams, but the other waste streams are substantially different than what we see in agriculture. And then this is another overarching comment, Brock. With a lot of technologies, is how do you structure a purchase of a new technology, right? Again, I'm going to make a distinction between new to me and new to the industry.
Yeah.
Right. And so, if it's new to me, you're probably going to pay the price and then, hope you get the good support to make it work, But if it's new technology, what are you going to do? There's definitely risk. There's definitely risk that comes with doing things that are new. And so, basically you can do things like try and buy. If a company is established enough, you can try it, use it, and then buy it after you've hit some kind of metric in terms of your satisfaction. Or the other is purchasing at a discount. And what is that discount? That discount really is just. I look at that discount as someone's just buying your goodwill, because you're going to be really ticked off someday when it's not doing what it's supposed to. And I'm going to say, well, you bought it at a discount, And so,
yeah. You're just a little less ticked off.
You just kind of take the sting out of it, right?
Yeah,
but I tell you what,
seriously.
When things are going bad, you don't give a damn about that discount because it's going to seem like nothing. There's no amount of money that can buy your goodwill.
Yeah, you don't. It doesn't matter how bad you think you got screwed over. In your mind, you got screwed over. I mean, it's as simple as that, right? In the heat of the moment, there. Yeah,
that's right.
So, no, thanks for mentioning that, Andrew. It's really important for producers to think about that, and just zooming back out a bit more to the bigger picture here. Earlier on in the conversation, you mentioned, be intentional and wise about who you're doing business with and innovating with. So on the topic of people, I also want to encourage producers to assemble the right team.
Oh, yes.
As they make their evaluations as well. If you're a family farm, that might be your family, that your spouse, your parents, your siblings, children, whoever is involved as a partner in the family operation, or your, long story short, your business partners. Talk to your ownership and leadership team. But also talk to your staff, your operations team. The guy who might be running this new piece of equipment or managing cattle in a new type of housing, get his or her input as well. They might have some things to say. And
Brock, I'm also say, I'm going to interrupt
go
you,
ahead.
but
Please.
Not only that, but once in the pre-implementation, those are all the same people you want to have trained up. And so it's not my idea to innovate, guys. This is our idea, and getting everybody's buy-in accordingly.
Yeah. And that, before I mention some other individuals to have on your evaluation team, I think it's important to note that sometimes, or maybe oftentimes, technologies, innovations might fail, not because the technology itself failed, but it wasn't operated correctly. It's, it's like when I go fishing and I don't catch a fish and I'm like, oh, this fishing pole, just not a good one. And my buddy's like, no, I think it's operator error.
Yeah.
Same thing, right? It's quite literally could be operator error. Things aren't managed correctly. So if you have your team appropriately trained and have their buy-in and they view themselves as a stakeholder in this, whether that's your business partners or your staff, I'd like to think you have a greater chance of success with this investment.
Well, you need buy-in and you need continuity of buy-in. And so I'm going to give you an example. So let's just say I innovate and, initially with this innovation, let's just say I'm as the champion of the innovation, I'm the one that kind of got it going, right?
Yep.
And then if I don't do a good enough job in the training, what could come behind me to manage my innovation, they might not quite understand it.
Yeah.
We've seen this many times with manure handling systems that say the dairy owner says we're going to do this technology, great, and in the initial installation and commissioning, it's his, and it works like a top, but then suddenly becomes passé to him, and this person's running a business, and they can no longer champion the innovation, and then you have this lapse, and it goes on to the next person. Well, it doesn't quite perform the same, and then goes to the next person, doesn't quite perform the same, and before you know it, you've really kind of lost what you had set out to do.
Yeah, dairy owner goes back to being dairy owner, doing all the things they have to do, and John Smith, the operator, inherits this new system with little to no training or context and doesn't know what he doesn't know.
Yep. So as we kind of wrap things up, Brock, I'm gonna in terms of looking at new technologies, I'm gonna list what I would call my 4 heavy hitters as you look at anything. Again, I'm gonna make a distinction between new to me and new to the industry, and I think this applies really to both. And the first is you really need to work with a credible company. And again, you're going to be dealing with startups, especially if it's new technology. But wherever possible, you want to be working with a credible company. ALA Engineering, right? There's an innovative technology that we worked with, credible company. Those are the people that you want to work with because
Jacob with his feed trucks.
Jacob is going to be there. If you buy a Jacob's feed truck, he's going to be there. He is vested in your success. He's invested in his success.
When it's not working in the blizzard, you call him, he'll drive and come see you.
That's right. So, number one, I'm not putting anything in particular order, but let's say credible company, right? Number 2 would be expectations. You want to, for something new, you want to set your expectations appropriately. I don't know, maybe even aim low. Don't be disappointed. And part of those expectations are going to be, especially, I mean, if it's with new technology, it's going to be different, and it's going to take some getting used to, whether it's new to you or whether it's new to the universe. Do your homework. We talked about if you're going to go see, automated feed trucks, you want to go see a bunch of automated feed trucks. You want to see as many as you can. Wouldn't hurt to see someone who had a bad experience. It would be great to see people who have good experiences. You put the two together, and you are going to know what to do. And then the last thing is, and we can keep on going, but is assemble the right team and have that assemble the right team to do the evaluation, and then assemble the right team. And we talked about continuity of execution. We want to assemble the people on the operations side that are going to execute and get the whatever innovative technology operating as it should.
Yeah. Excellent summary, Andrew. And I just have a couple of things to add. Would also mention, I talked earlier about cost. Really do your due diligence on financial feasibility and make sure you understand not only the direct, but the indirect costs of implementation for the technology. And also, you mentioned this one, just approach things with some systems thinking. View it all as a system and determine how this technology or innovation fits into the system of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, this has been a fun conversation for me.
Yeah.
I hope it has been for you too. And I really hope that our listeners have enjoyed this as much as we have. We talk about, we do some deep dives on some topics, whether that's anaerobic digestion or new technologies. We have attorneys, bankers, we have farmers, everyone comes on. But I think this has been an important conversation for your industry because there is so much out there. There's so much noise. A lot of it's probably good noise. But people have decisions to make as to how to spend their time and money. And hopefully we provided some value to agricultural producers here today as they work to make those decisions.
Yeah, and if listeners are working on technology or evaluating technologies and need another set of eyes to look at things, that's what we do.
Yeah, give Andrew and I a call. We're happy to help you. And with that, I want to say thank you all for choosing to spend a little time with us today. And we look forward to being back with you again in a couple of weeks. Until then, thanks for joining the herd today.